Howie Long, who has been doing things for Fox Sports for a long time after his Hall of Fame career as a defensive tackle for the Raiders. He was on Fox, and they were doing their pregame show talking about Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels, quarterback, Washington Commanders, that led them on that amazing run they had their first time in the NFC Championship game since 91. Here is what he had to say about Jayden Daniels in regards to him and compared to other teams that have quarterbacks.
I think there are 5 teams, if people around the league are being honest, that would not trade their quarterback right now for Jayden Daniels. Buffalo, Baltimore, Cincinnati, and the Chargers.
I'm going to assume that he left Kansas City off. I'm going to assume that maybe he had mentioned, or that was just Kansas City is a foregone conclusion. Because I got to believe if Justin Herbert makes the list, that Patrick Mahomes does as well. So I'm gonna imagine that is the case. And he only named 4, right? I would imagine Mahomes would be that. What Mahomes, Burrow, Lamar, Josh, and then Justin Herbert. I know that Justin Herbert part's a completely different, separate conversation. That some people, he's more really. Some people feel they agree with that. Some people don't. But he also, and we've kind of talked about the 2 rookie seasons those two have had, and I think that this kind of brings up the thought. Would you include C.J. Stroud in that? Would you have had a 6th team? Would you, if you were Howie Long, also added C.J. Stroud as being a person or a player that you wouldn't trade Jayden Daniels for? Yep. Or is that where you're at? You would have added him?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't have necessarily added him on this list. Hell, I would take Justin Herbert off there for damn sure. But like if we're just having a conversation, like I would never shape my mouth to say this in that setting. Just, I mean, I don't know what you're trying to get accomplished there, but it of course I'm watching through a Texans lens, and it just comes right back to C.J. Stroud for me. Is like, you know. And at first glance, while Jayden Daniels is having this unbelievable year and made it to the NFC Championship, I think it's popular to say Jayden Daniels, but I've said this a million times. It's a hill that I'll die on. The way in which C.J. Stroud revived this organization, and not the way in which, and just taking them from the most dysfunctional to winning, because Jayden Daniels did that as well. But the way in which he did it, like that C.J. Stroud is, to me, the surefire way of, 1, staying healthy, 2, consistently, if the supporting cast is right, consistently being a Super Bowl contending quarterback. And I'm not sitting here saying that Jayden Daniels can't process at the same level that C.J. Stroud can process at. I'm telling you that his legs had a lot to do with his overall success, the overall production, and had a lot to do with his arm. A lot of that is off schedule. A lot of that is stuff that you can't call on. A lot of that is, hey, if the offensive coordinator changes, who's the next guy that comes in? What does that look like? When you're talking about an extremely high-level processing quarterback that plays on time and on schedule, to that degree that we saw C.J. Stroud do it his rookie year, I'm taking that 10 out of 10 times before I'm taking something that is, again, rookie, and a lot of the production is off schedule, off script, or a lot of the production is based off of him using his legs, whether it's in scheme or out of scheme. I'm taking the high-level processor that went from the pocket at that level 10 out of 10 times. So I would not. I'm telling you right now, I would not trade C.J. Stroud for Jayden Daniels right this minute. I like what C.J. Stroud did his rookie year, and how he did it, to me, is still the most impressive brand of quarterback I've ever seen a rookie play. Now, look, we're splitting hairs. They were both absolutely tremendous. But give me C.J. Stroud, and I'm not making that trade.
And they say no.
You in the same boat?
Yeah, but it's not coming from a sense of like this blind CJ does no wrong, he's our savior in Houston type of thing. It's just, I mean, we saw a great rookie year out of CJ Stroud. Like we have 1 year sample size now of Jayden Daniels, and I wouldn't roll the dice on that continuing versus what we might get from CJ Stroud.
I think there's some fairness.
That makes sense.
I think there's some fairness of also, like Clint, you also saw CJ up close every day and watched every one of his snaps.
Yep.
Like, I think, Clint, if you were in Washington and you saw every one of his snaps, you may even feel a little different there if you watched everything about him. I look at it, Clint, I think both of them have whatever that potential it is, and that it of, as you said, hey, man, dudes want to go sit by that guy in the cafeteria. The dudes respect him. The dudes immediately see him as a guy they want to follow and get behind. I think that I think I would trade him for Jayden Daniels. I think the legs is the difference, because Jayden to me is different. At least, and I'll preface it by saying I didn't get to watch all of Jayden's games like I've watched all of CJ's games, but I've seen a lot of Jayden. And as we talked about a bit yesterday, Jayden Daniels is a bit different from the other players who are younger and really dependent on their legs. His accuracy and his ability to put the ball in the offense he's in where he wants it, like the throwing part, he has that to me as well as I've seen CJ, right? Like, and he can run the ball and use that athleticism. I thought CJ was going to get hurt in Kansas City as much as he started running. I'm like, hey, calm down now. Slow down, stay in the pocket.
CJ with the legs.
I just think from what we've seen from him, he's got the in the pocket stuff, and then obviously you give him the edge when it comes to off script and what he can do with his legs. So that to me, I think they're both very, very. I think it's very, very close. I think they are both going to be top 5, top 10 quarterbacks over the next decade. It's just right now the legs is something, as you've said, Clint, just changes the entire game for how teams have to defend, and he just gets to see different things that CJ doesn't. And so I think the legs are, for me, is the difference. All right, I see some people rolling in. CJ is a ball placement specialist. Jaylen, very accurate, but threw a lot of 50-50 type balls. Someone said he reminds me of Kyler Murray, just bigger. Okay, it's interesting. I don't know that I'd go there.
Well, there is
Not
a
turdish.
I knew Tyler wasn't gonna like that one. There is like he is. We've seen a lot of guys put up in that system, that air raid system, and I'm not minimizing or degrading or anything that he did. I mean, it was absolutely tremendous. And it's we're splitting hairs here, but when you start talking about, again, staying healthy, you start talking about if your coordinator leaves, what do you look like in a different system? If you jump up and all of a sudden you play a first place schedule all year long, what does that look like? And I'm not saying it's going to look bad, because he clearly played well against Philadelphia a few times this year. But it's one of those where, boy, when CJ was dialed in, it's hard to move me off that mountain right there.
Oh, I hear you. Yeah. I understand it. Just the legs for me is the difference.